Want to welcome everybody. My name is Scott Kibbe. I'm the Director of Secondary Education. I hope you and your family and your property are well, especially after the storms that we've had. With me, I have 4 panelists that will be entering, visiting with you as well. Dr. Greg Schultz is going to be the Director of the Online Learning Program. He was the principal at West High, but with several thousand kids to online program, we decided that we needed an administrator to manage all of the classes and the staff that go along with that. And so I'm super excited to have Greg with us on the call and also doing that work. Also, we've got Mr. John Bacon, who's the principal at City High, and Mrs. Liz Bruning, who's the principal at Northwest Junior High, and then Mr. Justin, principal at Liberty High School. And so we've got all 3 areas of the community covered. We've got levels covered from junior high to high school. Dr. Schultz, as many of you know, was the principal at Northwest Junior High as well. So he's got a great background in both junior high and high school. So they'll be watching the Q&A for me, and we'll stop periodically to kind of answer some of those questions. And if they're unique to a certain building, those guys will certainly be able to answer those as well. So again, welcome. And Justin, slide me off to that next one. So first of all, the big focus of tonight is on the online learning program. We will talk about the hybrid, and we can field some questions around that as well, but we really wanted to spend most of our time on the online learning program. So courses fall into 4 categories. The 2 middle categories are very similar to me, but I've broken them down separately. So Annuity is one of the tools that we'll be using in the online program. The second piece are courses that were developed in advance by the school district's teachers. We still will deliver by our school district teachers other courses, even though they weren't developed in advance. And so what do you mean, Scott? I mean that those folks will be developing the course as they go, but they're experienced teachers, so they'll be able to do that. And then the independent study model I'd like to share with you. And we're going to spend a slide or 2 on each of these items, but those are kind of the 4 main categories. So first of all, Annuity, that's a package that we bought about 4 years ago, and we've used it mostly for credit recovery. And so what that means, credit recovery, is if a student gets a failing or course, they can recover that while still being in their next section, the next trimester. They can go back and remediate that fall or winter course that they had a failing grade in. So that's the primary use that we've been using it for. Cedar Rapids is using Annuity primarily for their online program. I'll use the word synchronous and asynchronous a lot tonight. And so in case those words are not familiar to you, synchronous means live with another teacher, with another educator, and asynchronous means at your own pace, not guided by a teacher near as much. An Annuity course is largely asynchronous, so not a lot of contact with the school district teacher. That said, a school district teacher will be supervising it, and they will have office hours, and they will be responsible for letter grades. And so when I emphasize that in the spring, we gave grades on a pass-fail nature, and we'll have letter grades, A, B, C, D, E, F, just like we normally would. And in Annuity, we'll have a teacher assigned to giving those letter grades. I really want to emphasize this last point. We hope to only use Annuity when we have very small section sizes across the sum of the 3 district schools. So if between the 3 schools, we only have 7 kids, for example, that need a particular course, that's when we might use Annuity. If we have hundreds of kids that need that course, we're not putting hundreds of kids in an Annuity course. We're gonna create sections like we would on site, and it may be multiple sections, and assign them a teacher, and then we'll assign them a period as well. And so I really want to emphasize that Annuity is our last resort for delivering courses. As many of you know, the district teachers have been developing courses all summer long so that it aligns wonderfully with the curriculum that we use. And that doesn't matter what grade it is, it doesn't matter what discipline it is, It has just been happening across the system. So the developers aren't necessarily going to be the people that will deliver it, that will teach it, but they are experts in their content area, and they're providing a tool for those staff members who will teach it online. So that second bullet is really important to you. If you're a West High student and maybe the course is being developed by a West High teacher, it doesn't mean it'll be delivered by a West High teacher necessarily. The third one has been an interesting conversation that I've had with folks. This is not, the teachers will not be a substitute environment. I've had many people ask me, well, if they're developed by a West High teacher for biology, what good is that to me if somebody else is teaching it? They have to have a biology endorsement. It's what we call a highly qualified educator. So we absolutely are required to deliver the courses with people who are certified to do that. The fourth bullet there, it is very likely that courses will have a mix from all 4 schools, and that includes Tate as well. And in some cases, it might span across levels. So you might have a junior high student who's taking geometry. Well, you might be in a class with high school students taking geometry as well. And so very likely to have a mix of students across the system. And then teachers will be used across the system to balance staffing and the needs of each building. And so we can't take 7 teachers in the English department from City High School. It needs teachers at City High School to deliver English as well. And so that's what Dr. Schultz, part of his work with me, is going to be. We're going to have to determine some balance between the schools, and that means that not all those students will be having an instructor that they even know. They might not be from their building. There are some places where we're hoping that we might be able to create some building sections, but to be honest with you, we can't promise that at this point. And Wednesday is the close of e-registration. And so we don't have final data until that e-registration closes. We do have data from the teachers in terms of their requests to teach online, and that'll be a starting point for us in terms of assigning teachers to different courses. Again, they'll be taught by a highly qualified teacher in that certified area. I'm going to pause for just a minute. I saw a couple Q across, and maybe it applies to Annuity or these courses developed by the school district teachers. Liz, John, Justin, Greg, what do you got for me?
The questions are coming fast and furious. It's almost hard to keep up with them.
Okay.
This way, we're doing our best.
Okay.
One thing we know that we have a question about band and orchestra. Band will be taught in smaller groups. Even in the online section, you will be meeting, students would be meeting in a Zoom environment if they're at home with the band instructor, and in person, it will be a smaller groups, socially distanced in a room. So it'll be small ensembles, essentially.
Yep, and that's a question coming up, or a slide coming up as well.
Okay.
Yep, you're right.
I just saw it coming.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, why don't you go on and we'll see if we can keep up with these questions.
I see that one about sports, and students that are in the online program may participate in all activities, whether that's a club like robotics, or whether it's a music program like jazz band, or whether it's football or volleyball or basketball season, whatever those cases might be. So they are allowed to participate even if they're in the online environment. All right, let's slide to that next one.
Yep. And then just one thing too to
Justin?
mention that there's a few people that are utilizing the chat. Try to use the Q&A. It's a little bit easier for us to respond to everybody.
It sounds like my audio is going in and out, so I'm gonna take my video off of there and see if that helps with my audio. So thank you for that feedback. All right, that next slide, please, Justin. All right, so courses that are delivered by school district teachers but weren't developed ahead of time. So not all courses in our catalog are being developed in advance. Our catalog is extensive. Yet we have every intention of running courses that have large enrollments. And so I'll give you a couple examples. We sent out a note to staff and said, hey, we would like to develop as much in advance as possible. I wasn't able to get anybody to sign up to do 7th grade science. I wasn't able to get anybody to do 9th grade American Studies. And yet these are huge enrollment courses, right? We know we need 7th grade studies. We know our science. We know we need 9th grade American Studies. And we know we'll have large numbers of enrollment in there. Just to share with you kind of the scale of that, across the 4 buildings, American Studies has roughly 900 kids enrolled for it. And the number of students that are choosing online right now is somewhere around the 40% mark. And so 40% of 900 is over 300 students. We're not putting 300 students in Edgenuity for American Studies. So what will you do? We're going to break those 300 kids into section sizes much similar to what you would have in a regular class, 30, 35 kids. You'll be assigned a school district teacher. That teacher will be highly qualified in American Studies, and they will deliver that, I call it in just real time. So the only difference between the second slide, the one before this, and this slide is this staff member won't have that resource of it being developed ahead of time, but they still know their content and they'll still be able to deliver their program. Again, we'll be working with that model to build those sections. And a common question for the secondary schools has been Comp 1 and Comp 2. That is those are courses that are partnered with Kirkwood. We do those on our campus. And so the Comp 1 and Comp 2 are much like the 7th grade science and the American Studies, with one big difference. Comp 1 and Comp 2 aren't even in Edgenuity. So we knew all along we were going to have to provide Comp 1 and Comp 2 to you as well. And again, that'll be somebody that's certified through the Kirkwood program that's delivering that instruction normally as they would last year, and then they'll just do it in an online environment. It reminds me that some of our staff members may be working on site and then also be working online. So maybe their morning classes are on site and then their afternoon classes are online. So we're just going to have to develop a lot of flexibility with our teaching staff. Let's hit that last one, that 4th one, and then I'll breathe again. Independent study. So we are going to give more flexibility to buildings around independent study. We've really tried to use this on a very limited basis before, and we're expanding that. So as it says there, our biggest challenge lies in courses that have low numbers across the system, or they're not offered by Edgenuity. And it's also courses that are tied very to a building. Let me give you a couple examples. Dr. Schultz talked about the band programs. Those band directors want to stay close to their kiddos. So we don't want to create a course of band across the entire system for all 3 schools. The West High and the Liberty High and the City High bands want to stay connected to their kids because they know at some point we're going to be back on campus with those kids, and they're Liberty band kids or City High band kids. And so those staff are willing to work with individual families in what I might call kind of like a lesson environment. So they'll find some free times during the day. They'll connect with your kiddo to provide them small group instruction if you're online. And certainly if they're on site, then they'll have direct instruction. But as Dr. Schultz said, we've made those section sizes smaller. We're not going to have band sections of 150. The other place, a couple other places that comes to mind, I know Liz has a strong AVID program. And that AVID program is really connected to her school. And Jess is an awesome teacher, and she's very connected to those kids. And one thing that we see different with AVID compared to the other courses is that stays with those kids for multiple years. And at the high school AVID, they'll stay with those kids for 2, 3, 4 years. And so when that's the case, we don't want to have that course delivered across the whole system with somebody from your other building. So the scale helps us in the 2 previous slides, but where we have small section sizes, then we're going to try to use this independent study model. And then the final spot that I've been getting asked about is journalism. And as many of you know, awesome journalism programs in our school district. And got a couple emails about, can my students still be assigned to West Side Story? Absolutely. If you're a West High kiddo and you've been in their journalism program for multiple years, we want you to do that. You'll still be connected to Miss Whitaker as well. And the same goes for the Liberty and City High journalism programs. So where we need it tied to the school, music, journalism, AVID as examples, we'll use this independent study model. But where large system, similar courses, American Studies, Algebra 1, those kind of things, we'll use the scale of the district to manage the staffing part of that. So that's a good break point for me. Dr. Schultz, Justin, Liz, John, what you got for me?
We do have a question about the in-person, what's happening in person? What kind of ways are we going to mitigate the chance of spreading COVID? So I might just, ask our principals to just talk about, just in general, the fact that we'll be requiring students to wear masks, who will have social distancing. We're looking at if 30 to almost 50% of the students are going online, and then we have an AB model, that leaves 1/3 to 1/4 of regular class sizes. So it allows us to distance within the school more than we would if we were just a straight AB model. And there's just a huge document that's going to be released tomorrow at the board meeting that I invite anybody to look at, that really goes into some granular detail about the how we're going to structure our schools to mitigate against the spread of COVID. One probably dramatic one that's going to be released, this is hot off the press, is lunch. We're going to have restricted seating at lunch, and not an open campus for the first time in many years. So we're going to require that students not leave campus in groups and cars, but they'll stay here. So that may impact some people's thoughts about which program to do as well.
And again, as Dr. Schultz said, that'll be rolled out tomorrow night at the board meeting, and the specifics will be there in a document as well. Other questions?
Scott, there are a number of questions from parents about the registration process itself and course selection. Maybe you can a little bit
awesome, John.
Yeah, about what the process will be to create the actual schedules based on course requests that students have already made.
That's wonderful. And I think I've got that on a slide, but it's very timely. And so the first thing that you should know is you're not going to register again for courses. We're going to take your course request from January, February, March, whenever that time was that we were processing that, and your Power School designation, whether you're online or on site, we'll just pull that data to those two environments as we start to build out our new course section. So what you registered for before will still be what you have, what you'll get. The exception will be those small section sizes. We may not be able to run all those small section sizes. And so then we'll be able to give you an opportunity in another course in that same area. And that will be connected through your building's counselor. And so we won't be able to do that until we've gone through all of our registration data. Again, that closes on Wednesday, and all our staffing data in terms of, did I get all the courses that I wanted? But you don't have to re-register. We're going to use the data that you've got already in there. Great question.
Scott, there's several questions too on the subject of extra help and support for students, I presume, that are working online, and if they are struggling, maybe what are some layers of support that would be available to students working online?
So that speaks to the online program, and one of the reasons that we don't want to use Annuity a whole lot. So you will, if you're in the online program, you'll have 3 class meetings synchronously with your teacher every week. 2 of those days will be largely content driven, and the 3rd day doesn't mean it won't be content driven, but will be an opportunity for extra help. It'll be community building for that class. Several of those types of activities it'll be setting up the next week so that everybody's on the same page. Each school has an intervention block when we're on site. Liberty time at at Liberty High School and Little Hawk Time and AFT at West High. And on the schedule, when we roll that out here in a moment, it's on another slide coming up here. It'll simply say homeroom. And that'll be another opportunity for you to check in with some teachers if you need to, though we really would like to use kind of that Friday day. What's my next slide? And maybe some of this is connected to that next slide. There we go. So that was the first one. What if my courses aren't available? Students aren't rescheduling or re-enrolling. We'll just use that registration. If the numbers don't warrant that, staff, like we said, will have to make adjustments to that. And I would really say to you, that's the consistent approach of when we're on site, that we post everything when kids register in January and February, and then administrators look at the data and say, you know what, counselors, we can't run course X. And when that happens, then counselors are scrambling to give those kids other options. Big question is, when will I know this? Even Mr. Bacon asked me today, when will I know what my courses are? It's going to be challenging. We got a lot of work ahead of us. We've got several thousand kids in our online program, and we've got to manage the staff at the buildings and the staff in the online site. And essentially, we have to blow up our master schedules at all 3 high schools and start from scratch. The good news is we've got a lot of families that are interested in this program. The bad news is it impacts us in terms of our design on the scheduling side of things. So it's going to be that week before school starts before we're able to get you any of that information. We'd love to get it to you sooner rather than later, but it might be later in that week as well. What's my next slide? We'll maybe pause for questions if it's not connected.
Scott, there are several questions about AP and honors programming in the.
Yeah.
Could you speak about that, please?
Yep, it's my next slide here. So that first part, again, I want to emphasize that where there are large numbers across the system, we want to devote a staff member to that. So AP government will have a large number of students that want AP government. That's not going to be an education course. That's going to be multiple sections delivered by school district teachers to deliver that AP course. The only AP classes that I have just a little bit of pause on would be those AP classes that are unique to a building, that aren't at all 3 buildings. And I don't want to say that we're not going to be able to run those. It just makes me nervous when there's an AP course that's in one building and not in the other building. So that'd be a place where we're just going to have to do a hard, fast look at that. I do want to pause about honors. I get a lot of questions about honors. And honors falls into 2 categories. The first category is what I call embedded in the standard course. It's something that we do with like English 9, for example. In other words, all English 9 kids are in a class. And then at some point in the trimester, the teachers, early in the trimesters, frankly, the teachers ask the students who want to take this class for honors credit. And in that situation, they're provided extensions, extra readings, different assessments to increase the rigor of that particular course. But it's embedded. The students not taking the honors version and students taking the honors version are in the same class at the same time with just different expectations around that. So some of our courses will be embedded. Others will be standalone. What do I mean by that? I mean, it's just completely separate. For example, we know that chemistry honors is a gatekeeper to AP chemistry. And what I mean by that is most students don't go to AP chemistry through regular chemistry. They go to it through honors chemistry. Therefore, we know that we need to run honors chemistry separate from the regular chemistry. So you'll see that in the sciences where there'll be standalones. You'll see that in the math courses as well. Algebra 2 honors is going to run as a standalone away from Algebra 2 as well. So that's kind of a broad overview of AP and honors. Greg, looked like maybe you were going to interject something there.
I'm just answering questions on the Q&A as fast as I can.
Okay, very good. Other questions that I can stop and pause? Justin, I see a smile there. Maybe you've got something as well.
No, there's a lot of questions. We're doing our best to try to address as many as possible.
I
Okay.
will say, Scott, we did go over 800 students, so we are 800 participants. So we are right up there with the elementary. So there's no drop off in concern as you go from elementary to high school.
Awesome. Awesome.
Scott-
Well, let's hit. Go ahead, Liz.
Scott, there's been a lot of questions about students with IEPs, whether their case managers will remain the same, how their SDI will be provided, as well as students with 504 plans.
Yes, that's also a future slide that's coming up, but since that's a timely question, let's hit that. Our preference is to have students with IEPs stay with their roster teachers, but the truth of the matter is we won't be able to know if we can do that until we pull all the data again. And so it is possible that a student with an IEP could be assigned a different roster teacher. It's not what we're hoping for, but we've just got to work through the enormity of all of that. The 504s will definitely stay building based. That usually is an assistant principal, but it could be somebody else in the building that is the supervisor of those 504s. And in both cases, we should be running meetings about what their programming looks like in a mostly online environment. Even if you choose the hybrid piece, we should be having IEP or 504 meetings so that we can make sure that the programming is right and the SDI is right for your student. All right, Justin, slide to the next one. These are other common questions that I get. We might have hit some of these. Can my student participate in activities? Yes. Can my student enroll in a class not offered at my home school, but offered online? Yes, but let me give you an example. West and Liberty run AP Human Geography, and there's going to be plenty of kids that will need that, and so we'll create section sizes for that. And so if a City High student wanted to take AP Human Geography, they sure could. Here's the but. If they choose to change their mind at the trimester and go back to the hybrid where they're on site, well, that course isn't going to be offered at the site. And so to stay in AP Human Geography for the year, they'll have to stay in that program, in the online program for the year. The other piece of this as well is I want to remind you, your students aren't signed up for any of those classes at this point, right? You're only signed up for the courses that were offered at your school. And so likely the only way that you could enroll in a course not offered at your school is if something that you wanted isn't offered and then you were given some choices to replace that. And it's not just human geography, it happens at all the buildings. I know Liberty has some courses that West and City don't have, and so you may, but we're just not going to be able to promise that when you come back on site. Are all courses across the options taken for a letter grade? I've been getting a lot of questions about that. Are they pass fail? That's the way we did in the spring. No, they are all taken for letter grades. Do all the courses receive Iowa City School District credit? Absolutely, absolutely. Can I switch between formats? Only at the trimester. And as I've been mentioning, it is a massive staffing undertaking on our end. And so switching 4 weeks in is just not possible because of how we're trying to provide enough staffing to John and Justin and West High as well. Can I be enrolled for some classes on site and others online? No, I'm sorry, you're not able to do that. There is one potential workaround for those of you who are junior or senior parents. Kirkwood, their academies are running online. And so if you sign up for Kirkwood classes, that'll be online. And then you could sign up for school district classes on site if you chose. In our system, you have to be, for the school district system, you have to either be on site or in the hybrid. Those are the only ways we can disaggregate the data. And who will be my contacts for the online coursework? Your building's counselors. They want to stay connected to your kiddos. They've got 4-year plans. They've got graduation. They've got scholarship stuff. They want to really make sure that they're connected to you. And then certainly your building administrator. And now Dr. Schultz, that Dr. Schultz is going to be the director of this program. He is also a resource for you as well. You may always reach out to me. I try to do my best to answer those questions through email. So feel free to reach out to any of us.
Scott, there's several questions about choir, orchestra, PE, and industrial tech. I know that we talked about band, but the other music, there's been several questions about those other music courses, as well as a couple other classes such as PE and industrial technology.
Yeah, choir and orchestra will be just like band. I'm going to try to create an independent study experience for those students that choose to be in the online environment. Those teachers will be working with your kids to set up times for virtual lessons and stay connected to the school program. PE is actually being developed in advance. You won't be able to take performance PE, but the course that we're going to offer students is lifestyle PE. I want to remind you as well that you only have to take PE 1 out of every 3 trimesters. And so you may not be assigned PE in the fall trimester. It may happen in the spring trimester as well. But that course is being developed so that you can get PE while you're in an online environment as well. And then industrial tech is probably a huge challenge for us. The real hands-on classes are difficult for us to provide in an online environment. So we're going to look at those courses and the registrations around those courses and make some determinations about which courses are more suited for online. I know, for example, on the art side of things, there's a drawing course that is being developed in advance. So we'll for sure have drawing, but it's much more difficult to do stained glass in an online environment, right? So if you signed up for stained glass, then we're likely to have a conversation and ask you if you'd like drawing or digital photography or graphic design, some of those things that we think can lend itself more to the virtual environment. So we know those hands-on courses are much more difficult to deliver online.
Scott, 2 questions that are standing out to me. One is we talked about today in our meeting, and if you could speak about if a student is, let's say, exposed or test positive themselves or is exposed and needs to do a 14-day quarantine and they're in the hybrid model in person. There are some questions about what will their schooling look like while they are quarantined.
Yep. And that's like what Dr. Schultz was saying in terms of the guidance on the health and safety piece. This guidance on that question will come out formally tomorrow night at the board meeting. But the short answer to that question is those kids we want to keep connected to the school experiences as well. They've already figured out who their Algebra 2 teacher is on site, and we want to keep them connected to that on-site Algebra 2 teacher. If we roll them into the online program, they'll end up with another teacher, and then when we get them back, they'll have to bounce back to their original teacher. It's not something that we think is good for kids. So we want to keep them connected to their school teacher.
And then another one, Scott, is about a family that's considering the online program, but they're interested in creating a little pod or cohort of students, a small group of friends, I imagine, that is interested in working together in the online model. And they're wondering if there's a way to have those schedules be the same so that the kids that are grouping together in their homes would be able to work through those classes in a common manner.
Frankly, John, that's just going to be a big ask for us. We did talk today about classes that have large system-wide like English 9. Wow, we got a lot of kids that take English 9, right? That we might be able to create some pods from a school, but classes especially that have less quantity in class sizes, you're likely to be in a class with others. And so managing requests for 2 or 3 when we've got, I think Adam told me today, 5,000 kids, K-12 in the online environment. It's really difficult to pod 3 or 4 kids and for us to manage that. So I'm sorry. Justin, my next slide for me, please. Yes, awesome. Daily schedule. Justin, if you hit that link, will that show us that schedule?
Very good to get the chat out of the way.
Okay.
You want the top link?
Yes, please. All right, and that's the elementary version. So slide me down. Let's talk a little junior high. That should be the junior high one there, right? Verify for me. Awesome. So if you're in the online program, and the high school does not look much differently, your student will be assigned sections, just like they're assigned sections on site. And so they'll have period 1, they'll have 7th grade science, and that runs from 9:14 to 9:57. And if you look at Wednesday, it runs 8:50 to 9:32. And then if you look at Friday, it's 9:14 to 9:57. Well, that's kind of goofy, Scott. Well, that's because Wednesday's going to be our early dismissal day for PD. It used to be Thursday. But what I want to emphasize is those period 1 times are perfectly aligned with the hybrid kids that are on site. Why? We're doing that for the staff, to be frank with you, because we think that'll be staff members that'll need to teach online and on site. And so we need the schedules to be perfectly aligned so that if I'm teaching online algebra in first period, and then I'm teaching on-site algebra 2 in second period, I need those class periods to be the same. And so that schedule that you see there is aligned to the on-site one. And then what I want to draw your attention to there is you're going to meet synchronously twice a week, Monday and Wednesday with periods 1 through 4. And then in the afternoons, periods 5 through 8 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So 2 days, those are going to be synchronous learning with your teacher. And then Friday, you're going to meet with all your classes potentially. But again, that Friday, we're hoping for interventions, study groups, study help. If you're having a little trouble, maybe we'll group you in groups of 5 or something like that. If we can identify areas of need. We're worried about building a classroom community. It's something that we do as educators really well when we're on site. We build our classroom community so that we can have open conversations and trust one another. And so we want to use Fridays to build some community as well. Maybe slide down, Justin, just show that high school piece. The only difference is junior highs have 8 periods and high schools have 7 periods. There's, oh, that's okay. So is the high school one down a little bit further, Justin?
Yep. Is that what you want?
Yeah, that'd be great. And then we'll go back to the one you just showed me. So there's the high school version, periods 1 through 4, also on Monday and Wednesday. Periods 5 through 7 in the afternoon on Tuesday and Thursday. You'll see everybody on Friday, as we mentioned. And another difference is Liz and the junior highs are doing their homeroom at the beginning of the day. And at the high schools, they're doing it between 6th and 7th period. Again, that's exactly what will happen on site. So again, for the first through 4th period and 2 days for 5th through 7th. Now take me up to that other one. So let's switch to what happens if I'm in a hybrid. So I choose to be on site. So Monday and Tuesday are the group A students. So you're going to go through all your classes, periods 1 through 8 on Monday and Tuesday. I'm going to come back to Wednesday. It's what I call a toggle back and forth day. Thursday is going to be the B students. So the A students are at home while the B students are at school on Thursday and Friday. So notice, whether you were in the online program, you're going to have synchronous opportunities with your teacher 2 times, Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, plus the Friday. And if you're on site, you're going to have 2 days a week with your teacher face-to-face, Monday, Tuesday for A's, and Thursday, Friday for B's. The difference from the Friday is the Wednesday here. And what we're going to do is alternate A and B's every other week. So what do I mean? In week 1 of the school year, your A group is going to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the B's Thursday, Friday. But next week, the Monday and Tuesday group will be A, and we're going to use Wednesday for a B day now. So that over 10 days, we'll have 5 A's and 5 B's. But again, I want to emphasize the time for the on-site folks with their teacher face-to-face is essentially the same as the online folks synchronously, virtually with that teacher. Justin, if you toggle out of there, make sure I hit all the elements of my slide, but that's kind of what I was talking about there. 2 to 3 times a week in either mode, and time with the teacher in person is nearly the same. I think my next slide, are what activities occur synchronously versus asynchronously, to give people an overview of that. I have said this, maybe just kind of philosophically with teaching staff, especially those that are developing courses, that I am asking teachers to think kind of with a backwards design. And what do I mean by that? I was a former math teacher. If there's going to be independent practice time, then design that in a way that happens mostly, not only, but mostly during asynchronous time. If there needs to be direct instruction, then do that mostly when you have the kids in front of you, either synchronously or in an on-site model face-to-face. If I'm a language arts teacher, it is not uncommon for a language arts teacher to provide reading time if they're working on a text during a regular class period. Not the whole period, but part of it. I've asked teachers to kind of think backwards, which ones are essential that they need the teacher to design, that they need the teacher with them to do the work, and which ones don't they need necessarily the teacher. So if it's silent reading, that's going to happen during asynchronous time. And if it's class discussions, man, that's the good stuff that English teachers have, right? If they're talking about theme or setting or character development, we want the teachers to deliver that, and that's where their passion lies. So this slide here is what happens during synchronous time. And technically, my tech people would tell me the word synchronous really applies to the online environment, but sometimes I use it also for just that face-to-face instruction. So it's exactly what you would think would happen during synchronous time. You're going to get teacher-supported learning, direct, people might call that lecture. You're going to have one-on-one support, those discussions. Assessments will probably occur in both modes. There'll be some that need to occur synchronously and some that will occur asynchronously. And then certainly we want to build in flexibility for our teaching staff. We know as educators, we have the best plans oftentimes. Then we see where our kids are and we adjust our plans. And so that element is all about giving teachers the flexibility to stop, tweak their lessons a little bit, and help the kids where they're at that moment. I do want to emphasize, I've been getting some questions about this. Kids will not be expected to zoom in every period of every day. Research says that between 3 and 4 hours is the most that a kiddo should have during screen time. And so that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to manage those screen times. And you'd say, but Scott, you've got them scheduled in all 7 periods on Friday. Yes, but we're not hoping to use the entire time, and we're not expecting all teachers to use that time. That's kind of their discretionary time. So you might see it be 15 minutes with a small group working on adding fractions. So we're just giving folks a lot of flexibility. Justin, the next one should be asynchronous activities, I'm going to guess. Yeah, and so during those asynchronous times, you may see video recordings of the teacher. You might see video recordings from other sources. I've seen some really cool science stuff that those folks are developing where they've got kind of online simulations. So that's videos from other sources. We are working through how you might be able to zoom in and repeat a lesson, or maybe save that, like tonight's meeting as well is being recorded. Group activities where the kids are working in groups while the A kids maybe are having class on that particular day. As we mentioned, readings and independent practice and discussion boards. And certainly during asynchronous times, they may check in with the teacher via email. We mentioned the assessment piece. We will not be taking attendance during asynchronous times. Kids can do that, what fits their life best. And then I do get a lot of questions about how much should we expect? And so we've said if you've got an hour class period, you would expect 30 minutes for every hour class period, roughly, just roughly. And we know that AP and honors courses often require more time than that, but then give you a gauge of how much time. So I think about that period 1 through 4 on Monday. That's about 4 hours of synchronous. So then on the asynchronous time the next day, then it'd be 2 hours of asynchronous work, approximately. But just to give you a guideline in that regard. So I'm going to stop for a minute. I'm going to breathe again and give you guys a chance to give me some feedback. I see that you're answering questions by typing, and that's awesome. But whichever ones you need me to answer verbally, I'm happy to do so.
We've answered 168 questions, but we've
Well
got
done.
we've got 150 left that are out there. So we're doing our best.
All right.
I will say there are some Project Lead the Way classes that are conducive to going online. There's also a product that we're going to be using this year, which will allow students using a Chromebook to access a higher level programming, such as the Adobe Suites. You may know them as InDesign or Photoshop, things like that, which they'll actually be able to use the actual version of using a server, but they can do it from home on their Chromebook. So we are able to access some higher level programming that way. Have a couple questions about that.
Awesome. That's great feedback, Greg. I forgot about that, and I know that's not in my slide, so I appreciate that. How about other questions?
There's a
Scott,
lot
we're
of
getting
people that are, go ahead, John.
I'm just saying we're getting a suggestion and probably a good one here to try to take the questions that are being asked and knowing that we probably won't get to all of them tonight and then be able to write answers to them and post that on the website. So I'm just passing that along.
Good feedback. Let's go
Getting
to
a
the
lot of
next slide,
questions
Justin.
about-
Go ahead, I'm
Getting
sorry.
a lot of, yep, that's fine. I'll advance you and then talk at the same time. Getting a lot of questions about course changes. So essentially what I've told them is right now it's kind of in a holding pattern as we're going to have to rebuild our master schedules, but I don't think it's out of the question to at least inquire about it. They can reach out to their school counselor if they are interested in changing a course request that they made back in January or February. Can't be promised, but they could at least check on it.
Yeah, this is going to be more technical than you want. When we do it on January, February, and March, it's kind of on the backside of Power School. But when we rolled Power School over, we're now on what we call the live side. And so you can make some course changes if your counselors are able to do that. And we're going to pull the data from the live side. So any changes that you make today would be reflected in that. It's just a lot, right? We're processing a lot of courses.
Is this a slide you need, Scott, or do you need it advanced?
I think I hit that slide, so let's bop to the next.
I'm wondering if that's the last one.
Oh,
It's not
it
advancing
possibly
for me.
is the last one.
Yeah, it's not advancing any further.
Awesome. Well, I don't necessarily need to end this right now. I'm happy to allow you guys to answer some more questions, and I'm happy to field questions as well. Liz, I know you and I talked before this, and many questions that you get are around what the hybrid piece of it looks like. Do you feel like we've done a decent job of sharing what that hybrid is?
I think we're trying to answer those questions as much as possible in the
Okay.
Q&A section. So I think we're doing okay, but other panelists maybe can jump in if they've noticed some hybrid specific questions to address.
I've seen a couple of questions about if the online is like a guarantee throughout the entire school year, or if we are just taking this a trimester at a time. In other words, select online. Are we committing to that throughout the entire school year, or are we going to adjust based on what's going on?
Yes, we are committed to it for the entire school year. I would say too that we'll be committed to some version of this beyond this school year as well. The reason I pause a little bit is I'm sure families can understand that we will reevaluate where staff are based on what kids choose at each trimester. So that'll be a key piece to us. So if after the fall trimester, we have a big influx of students into the online program where we're going to have to reallocate staff again, right, to cover the students that are online. But it's also possible that maybe, I don't know, is there any chance a vaccine's going to occur? We can, right? But let's say more kids choose to be on-site then. Well, then we'll have to reallocate staff back to the on-site model as well. So there will be a window near the end of the first trimester where we will ask you something about whether you need to change the mode that you've chosen at this time. And we will make decisions for the winter and the spring based on those. But we are committed to providing the online program for the entire year.
Can you review again for people the opportunities to change? There's been several questions about moving between models throughout the year.
Yep, that only can happen at the trimester. And so we'll communicate that after when you can change it. If you made a decision last week, you can still change it through this Wednesday, midnight of this week. So you're not locked into a decision you made a week ago. But then once tomorrow or Wednesday night closes at midnight, then you'll be locked into that for the trimester. And then we'll give you another opportunity late in the first trimester to make a new decision about the winner, and the same for the third trimester late in the winter trimester. We'll let you do that in real time so that you can make the decision based on what's happening with the environment and the community.
I would just maybe look at a question here that asks about online, hands-on sort of experiences. We are looking as best we can for ways to simulate that in an online environment, but a lot of it will be simulation. It won't be sending home test tubes, for kids to work with. We'll just, it's just not practical. But they've had a lot of advances in science simulation. And so just for example, when we get to those hands-on manipulatives, that's how you'll see it taught often.
One thing that I forgot too, that whatever you said jogged my memory, Greg, is that we're going to create a pickup process as well, so that if you need a textbook for a particular class, we will have a process to do that as well. We obviously won't do that until you know what your courses are. We can't give you a textbook for a course that you aren't sure whether you're going to get that one or not. We have a lot of online text, so we're hoping that we don't have to do a lot of hardbound text, but we know that we will have to provide some books to you, and we'll create a process. I thought our spring process was really solid in terms of getting kids their stuff back, whether it was stuff in their lockers and just the various items. So we had just a nice process at each school in terms of giving kids their stuff back. So I just see us replicating that, but in reverse. Now we're going to give you stuff back. Hey, you're a tuba player and you use a school-owned tuba. Well, we've got to figure out a way to get that to you.
Okay, I think we need to figure out how to save the chat. Scott, as we're winding down here, I think there may be an option for you to do that as the host. It may allow us to then post this, get that out there.
I know Kim is recording this, so Kim will help us send the recording out, but I won't close this until I have some closure about how I copy the Q&A part in there.
I know I've seen that option as a host before.
Okay.
Yeah, I can help you with that too, Scott. Walk you through it. I know I've captured our chats from our staff meetings last spring.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, everyone, we want to thank you for your time. We're right at an hour. That's what we've been trying to keep our meetings to, an hour, and honor your time. Really appreciate my team that's with me. And you're not seeing all of them, but we just got a great team and we're working really hard together. We've got a lot of work to do. We know that, but we're getting after it. So thank you to my panelists, and thank you to the rest of the administrative team. Thank you, families. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. We want to answer your questions. We want to be helpful to you. We make big decisions at your family as well, and we want to help you through that. So be well, everyone.
Yep. And then just one last thing too. I know just because I was answering the question often, but if you're curious about certain things with the e-registration process, if you filled something out or just want to double check something, if you contact your building secretary, the main office, somebody in the main office will be able to check on that registration status and kind of put your mind at ease over what you're concerned about.
All right. Good night. Justin,
Thanks,
help me save those Q&A.
Yep.
I assume it's under more, or is it under Q&A?
I'm going to be honest, I'm almost wondering, I think it's when you close out. Are you the host of the webinar, Scott?
Well, technically I'm the co-host. She's the host.
Okay. I'm almost positive, and Greg, help me out if you can remember, but I'm almost positive when you close it, there's options within that kind of post Zoom information to save it. Not
Okay,
100%
so-
sure, but
And she's been on speed dial with me today, and she's just been an awesome help. So before I close it, I will have Kim make sure she saves the Q&A. So I will give her a call right now. I'm going to mute myself and call Kim to make sure we do it. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate your help.
yep.
Thanks.
Scott, let us know if you want any help trying to answer these questions and anything we can do to follow up.
Yep,
Thank you, John.
absolutely.